Hello, everybody. This is Greg29407 back with another episode of City of Heroes. We're in the Richte War Zone right now in the theater, the movie theater of some type. I don't know what it is. I guess it's a briefing thing. We're the professor of the day. It is a brute that I've named BBQ Beef Rib, and let's get a little closer to him. BBQ Beef Rib because he is a bull of some type, and he's on fire, so he is definitely barbecued. Um, this is a brute. He's a savage melee fire armor brute, and he's got his cowboy boots in his belt because he's a cowboy at heart. Um, I made this character because I wanted to see a couple of power sets I had not used before on brutes. I've used a bunch of them, and savage I've always heard quite a few good things about. Savage melee always seemed like it'd be something like claws, which I really enjoy. Um, in this particular video, I'm going to be using a couple of my other characters that I've had on previous episodes. Killdozer, who is a stone melee radiation armor brute, and then Tiger Town Fanatic, who is a claws regeneration brute. They're kind of the extreme ends of the speed and damage and things like that. They're both really awesome characters. So I want to try Savage Melee because it seemed like it'd be a lot like Claws because they describe it as being, animalistic and attacking and stuff like that, which is what I always see as Claws as well. And then Fire armor because I've not used that before. I didn't really think at the time that there are so many Fire armor brutes in the game. In fact, on the other server that I play on, but not for broadcasting, of course, they don't allow it. I think something like 80% of brutes are fire armor brutes. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Because they're perfect for farming, doing AE missions for boosting your XP up very quickly. I'm not playing this character as a farmer, although I did do some farming to get from level 31 up to 37. I'm now currently 38 right now. And I'll tell you about how that experience went. It's very positive. But what I want to talk to you about is Savage Melee and Fire Armor as a leveling up build and just playing as a regular character, which is how I always play the game, of course. So let's go through the different power sets and see what we've got here. Again, I'm level 38 now, so I've gone through pretty much everything I'm going to go through. It's pretty good. Savage Melee is not so much like Claws as I had thought it would be. It's Claws is very fast. The damage is lighter than normal, but it's very fast. You feel like you're playing a Cuisinart. You're just running through and slashing and slicing everything up. Savage Melee does more damage, but it's also slower. So I think the DPA is fairly similar. I don't know how that works. But what I have found is Savage Melee is actually really good. It is not the strong power that Stone Melee is. Stone Melee, it hits like a Mack truck and you feel it. So Savage Melee is not on that standard, but is fast moving. And also, Savage Melee is really good for AoE, which we're going to get into a little bit later. This is a very AoE centric type of character. Because Savage Melee is a fairly new set, it has a gimmick to it, as many of them do. The gimmick here is called Blood Frenzy. And what happens is when you use your attacks like your Savage Strike and your Maiming Slash and your Vicious Slash, maybe not Vicious Slash, and your Savage Leap, mainly single target damage, you build a stack of Blood Frenzy. And it'll show up here on your little top thing. And when you get a stack of 5, then you've maxed out on your Blood Frenzy. Now, what happens is when you use other powers such as Shred and Rending Fury and Hemorrhage, then it uses Blood Frenzy. And the way it uses it is, let's see, Shred, I think does a wide as a cone. I think it does a wider cone. Let's see here. Oops. Let me see here. Oh, okay. So if you consume Blood Frenzy on Shred, you get a 20%, it does slightly more damage per stack, and you get a 20% chance to immediately recharge itself from each stack of Blood Frenzy. And that's really helpful because a lot of times I'll use that and then all of a sudden it's back up again immediately. It's like, oh, that's really good. For Rending Fury, if you have 5 stacks of Blood Frenzy when activating this power, its radius is greatly increased. So this is a PBAOE attack. So it is, way bigger. And that's really useful too. And then hemorrhage. I don't know if I can look at that because I don't have it. Hemorrhage I did not take. Hemorrhage is light damage. And what happens with hemorrhage is if you have that power, when you have blood frenzy, then it does more damage over time per stack, and it really stacks up quite large. Now, my understanding is on a stalker, hemorrhage is everything. It is awesome because when you get 5 stacks of blood frenzy and you use hemorrhage, it's like having another assassination attack, but without having to do the hide and the wind up and all that stuff. So what people will do is they'll take Savage Melee and they'll do their assassination attack and then immediately do hemorrhage and do even more damage on enemies. And those two things will just wipe everyone out. It's fantastic. I did not take hemorrhage because I have elected to kind of ignore the blood frenzy gimmick. It does stack up, and again, it does pop up occasionally, and one of my little powers will light up, and I'll click on it, and it's great, but I'll click on it whether it's lit up or not. I don't care. The reason for this is I like some of these gimmicks that these have, that some of these power sets have. I like the one that Street Justice has because it's pretty simple. The Titan weapon is a little more tough because I got some powers I want to use, but you can't use them unless they're charged up with momentum. It's like, oh, that's a pain in the neck, But I always look at dual blades as the example of a gimmick that is terrible. With dual blades, you have to get all the 4 different. Dual blades has a thing where if you do 3 powers in a certain order, then all of a sudden the next power you attack will do like a sweep or attack vitals, which does extra damage or knocks people off their feet. So they're useful, but the problem is you have to take I think 8 of the 9 powers in the set you have to take in order to get these things. And if you miss, if your accuracy is not quite as high on one of the 3 things, then you start over from scratch. So I spent, on my dual blades stalker, I spent all my time staring at my powers on my power slots. I wasn't watching the game. I wasn't watching my character fight. I was watching these stupid little things. I got to click here. I got to click here. Oh, no, I missed. I got to start over again. And you're watching these stupid things light up. It was no fun at all. So I tend to ignore these kind of gimmicky powers. So I am using it when it pops up on these powers, but I didn't take hemorrhage because hemorrhage is light. But let's go over the power sets. Savage Strike is the first damage power you get. It's a minor damage. It's pretty good. It does almost everything here is lethal damage. And you build 1 blood frenzy. It's a starting attack power. It does what you normally think of as a starting attack power. Maiming Slash is next. It does moderate damage, and it's pretty decent. It slows down foes. Their speed drops a little bit, I guess. The next one we get there, a lot of people don't like. I do is a Shred. It's a cone, and it does decent damage. When you use Shred, he does a lot of fast punches kind of things on someone. Boom, 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 boom. And there is a cone. You have to line the cone up. I personally don't mind lining up cones. A lot of people don't like them very much. I don't have a problem with them. I found that early on, especially, this was a really useful power to have because you got this, and this. That's all you got for your damage attacks. So it was nice to have. Vicious Slash is high damage, and this is where you really start to do some damage on enemies. It also does knockdown. There's a chance to do knockdown. High damage, really useful, very helpful to have. So this is a really good one. I think you get that one to like level 8 or I think maybe 8. Next one you get is Rending Fury. This is the PBAOE damage, and this is great. This thing just does damage to everyone around you in a circle. This is fantastic for jumping into the middle of the group. I've seen a bunch of enemies and just wailing the tar out of them. It's really useful. Next we have Taunt. I don't really play my brutes as light tankers. I know you can do that. I tend not to do that, so I don't take the Taunt. Bloodthirst is an extra power that it boosts your hit points, your total hit points. It gives you health over time, and also use up your blood frenzy. I've got that right here. So this is one of my support powers. Hemorrhage, again, is light damage, so it has the potential for doing a lot more. And again, if you like the gimmicks if you're tired of just playing regular punch, and you want to do more of the gimmicks, things that the sets had to provide, then this is probably a good power for you to use. Finally, we have Savage Leap. This is cool. This is what sold me on the set. When I heard that you leap from like 15 yards away into the middle of a group and you do damage to everybody. I thought, oh, that's it for me. I'm taking it. You don't really leap. You kind of teleport into the group. So it's one of those things. I like this power a lot. He leaps into the middle and does some decent damage. For some reason on the mids power, not power predictor, but when you choose all your powers and decide what you're going to do, and it's your power planner. It's your character planner. I use that all the time. For some reason, this for a long time, maybe it still does, show the damage as being 0, but it's actually damage over time, and it's really decent damage over time and a massive amount of damage. So if you leap into the middle of a group and hit this, you're going to get a lot of damage right away. I find that very, very helpful. So that's Savage Melee. I'm enjoying it. I find it pretty useful. Fiery Aura. Okay. Let's go through these powers. Fire Aura, we start off with Fire Shield, which you see I've got on me right now. And this is a resistance set. This is going to give us resistance to fire, smashing, lethal, and cold, and it gives you some resistance from disorients, from stuns from your enemies. That's useful. And you can see I've got some of my numbers up here. Blazing Aura is going to be one of these on powers, so I can turn this on. Click on this. And this does damage to your enemies as they're standing there. It doesn't do massive amounts of damage, but it does decent damage, and it's really useful. I love those kind of powers. Ever since my first character I ever played, a Stone Tank, which had mud pots, I just love mud pots. I thought it was really neat. So I love these kind of damages, and it adds up, especially early on. If you're focused on one enemy over here, then when you finally finish him, you turn around to the even level guy back here, and he's half dead already. So that's pretty useful. So I like that quite a bit. It does take up a decent amount of endurance, though. So what I've done is I've put three endurance in there so I can run it full time, and 1 damage so far. I'm going to get 2 more slots in there. And when I get a set, I'll be able to do maybe a little bit less than 3 on that, but it's working for me, so that I'm not going to argue with it. Next, we have Healing Flames, and I've got that down here. You're going to use Healing Flames a lot. Healing Flames, you click it on it, and it's going to give you a self-heal. I did not slot this up as much as I should have, or as fast as I should have. I'm going to eventually slot it up with, I think, 5 slots. Let me see here. Yeah, 4 or 5 slots for the heals. I slotted this up a little slower than I should have. This gives a nice boost to your green bar, but even just to slot it for recharge, because recharge is the other thing you want to slot it for. But yeah, I should have slotted more health on that. That was my mistake on that. This also gives you resistance to toxic damage. Next, we have Temperature Protection. This is an auto power. It's going to give you more resistance to fire and cold and to being slowed, which is nice, especially when you're fighting the Sioux. Plasma Shield is going to be your other toggle. It's going to be resistance to energy, negative, fire. It can resist from being held and being put to sleep. So that's pretty good. Next, we have Consume. Consume, which I've got sitting right down here. This is another interesting power. This is going to boost your blue bar. So what you do is you click on this when you're surrounded by enemies, and the more enemies you're surrounded by, the more endurance you're going to achieve. You suck the endurance from their power, from their bodies, and put it into your own. Now, this has an accuracy or to hit check on it for some reason. I wasn't aware of that, so it stinks to have your blue bar go way down and then click on this when you're surrounded by enemies and see miss over their heads. Oh man, that's frustrating as anything. Your blue bar doesn't move. If you click on this, like I'll click it right now, and just going around, you get nothing. You use it, but you don't get anything. So we got a Healing Flames to help our green bar, and we got Consume to help our blue bar. That's pretty good for a armor set. Next, we have Burn. Burn is PBAOE, it's your location, and when you click on this button, you set everything on fire right around you, and it does some big damage. Big damage. Let me see if I can set that off. Yeah, that's a decent sized thing, and this damage does a lot. That's a really good one. Next is the power I just took yesterday, in fact. Pyre. Now, this had been called Fiery Embrace, and it was kind of like this version's of a build-up. But they've changed it, and they renamed it Pyre. And what happens is it boosts your damage, and I think even your accuracy by like 30%. And it's which is great. And it's like a toggle now, but it uses 4 endurance per second, and it also eats up like some of your health on a per second basis. So let me turn this on and show you. So this is what I would need to do if I wanted to boost up my damage and my accuracy by 30% a second at a time. That looks awesome. Watch my green and blue bars. Now the green bar is going back up because I do have some health recharges, but it is going down by 29 a second. Look at that blue bar. It's going down by 4. Now, my recovery rate I've got over here is 2.48 a second. So I'm gaining 2.48 a second standing here, but I'm losing 4 a second. Well, actually a little bit less than 4 because I have one endurance in it. So I think, let's see. Yeah, I'm only losing 2.97. So I'm losing more than I'm gaining, which is why he's going to bottom out if I don't turn it off. Yeah, that's pricey. That's pricey. 30% more damage though. That's fantastic. So, I know one guy that I play on the game with has a level 50 tank who's he has fire armor. And he's able to run it full time now because he's got his incarnate stuff going and all sorts of got some IO sets and stuff. So you can run this full time. I'm a long way from this. I shouldn't have taken this at 30. I should have taken this at like 49 and taken some of my other powers I'm looking forward to taking. I am going to be taking like superior conditioning and physical perfection stuff, which would help with this as well. Aside from Pyre, I haven't been having a lot of endurance problems on this character. And that's mainly because Savage Melee is not very expensive in terms of endurance, which is nice. It's not as efficient as Claws, but it's really good. So it helps out with some of the other things. And then finally is Rise of the Phoenix, which is one of these things where you're going to get a boost to your endurance as a self-heal, death protection, and if you can come back to life. So I'll be taking that. I'm taking that one at 49, dead last. So now this combination of powers is very much. Oh, first of all, let's go over the Fiery Aura pluses and minuses. Fiery Aura has some really good things about it. It's got Blazing Aura, so you can do damage to enemies as they're staying there. It's got Burn, which does some major damage when you click on it. It's got Healing Flame, you heal yourself up. It's got Consume that boosts up your endurance as well. It's got this Pyre, which gives you 30% more damage. So what's the cons to this thing? What's it not doing? Well, let me show you what it's not doing. What it's not doing is, first of all, nothing with psionic resistance and toxic. I think we have toxic with this thing. It's supposed to be. No, not that one. Oh, I turn on Healing Flames, I get a little bit of resistance to toxic for a while. Psionic, 0. So what that means is if you're fighting Freak Show or Carnival of Souls or the Multi-Group, you're going to be in some trouble. So that's the problem. But a lot of every armor has some type of holes in it because otherwise everyone would just flock to it as perfect. So everything has a hole in it, and a lot of them have holes to psionic, or they're weaker to psionic. This just has a 0 to psionic. Now there are some IOs that you can take that will give you like 6% resistance to psionic plus another 5%, but still that's tiny. So that's not good. But okay, what else does this not have? Let's look in the debuff resistance. It has 0 resistance to regeneration, which means when enemies suck your life out of you, it's going to go. 0 resistance to recovery, which I hate because suddenly my recovery rate, my endurance bar, when this goes down to 0.00 turns red, I have to turn around and run. That's the Freak Show Stunners. That is the Carnival of Souls, or not Carnival of Souls, Carnival of Shadows. Carnival of Souls is an excellent horror movie. That is the Malta Group. That is those big pink lost guys that shoot the psychic. All those guys that can drop your recovery rate will drop your recovery rate. You have no resistance to accuracy getting cut down. You have no defense resistance. So good thing we're not really focused on defense, but if we were, we wouldn't be able to defend against it. You have no, we have some recharge. Do we have, let me go back to this thing. For status protection, you have, where's it at? No knockback protection. 0. This guy was flopping around like a popcorn kernel, getting knocked down by everyone. I bought Karma knockback protection for +4. I don't know if it's 0.8, it's +4. About half of what you need minimum. There's another, I think it's a Kismet, or I think it's Kismet, which is a damage resistance. When you can put in damage resistant power, they'll also give you another +4. I've got to buy that. So you can buy those two things and kind of fix your knockback protection, but it's expensive. So a lot of holes. There are a lot of good things about this, but there are a lot of holes as well. Now, here's the good thing about this combination, though. This is a very offensive-oriented combination of powers. This is really for the way to fill in the holes on this particular character is to just kill everything as fast as possible. The faster you kill everything, the less attacks you're going to take and less damage you're going to take and less holes that these enemies are going to be able to slide through and do damage to you. So let's take a look at this. For Savage, we have Shred, which is a cone. We got Rending Fury, which is a PBOE. And we've got Savage Leap, which leaps in and does PBOE. On the armor side, we've got Blazing Aura, which does constant damage all to everyone around you. We've got Burn, which does amazing damage for a short period of time around you. And Burn, by the way, recharges really fast. You need to put a recharge in. It's really fast. So you've got 5 powers right there that are all doing AoE damage between these 2 power sets. That's fantastic. As I had mentioned earlier, recently I got invited onto a, it wasn't really an AE attack, it was like a farm mission. AE is not working on this server right now. So this guy had this particular map, so he would do it over and over again and help other like lower level players like myself level up some, and then before we finished the map we would all exit out and reset it and do it again. And it was this demon farm, and so all the enemies were fire damage. So I didn't realize at the time, I said, well, I'm doing really good on this thing, because the leader, he was a level 50 tank, and I'm up there with him. I mean, he's jumping into the crowd, gathering everyone in. I'm Savage leaping in to the crowd. I'm clicking on Rending Fury. I'm clicking on Burn. I got Blazing Aura going. I'm clicking on Shred, and then I turn to the main guy and hit him with Vicious Slash. By the time the other teammates run over, there's not much left. And if I start running into health problems, I got these 2 buttons to hit that. I run into endurance problems, I got this button to hit that. I was doing really well. But I found that was because that particular map was designed specifically for fire armor brutes or tanks. What I've also found, though, is that this is a good combination for any kind of map. Well, not any kind of map. I need to stay away from, again, I need to stay away from the Malta group, which I'll be getting to when I get to a little higher level. I need to stay away from the Carnival of Shadows. I've been doing fewer of the Freak Show missions. Let me think, what other groups would be a problem? Cimarora might be a problem. I'm not sure. I need to do some of those missions too. The Richter have been no problem. I've been doing a lot of Richter Warzone, as I tend to do in this level. So there are a lot of holes to this. So I guess as a summary of this particular character, is not as complete a character as Killdozer, my stone armor radiation, my stone melee radiation armor brute. He's my best character. I think radiation armor is the best armor too, but that's just my personal opinion. I also don't think he's as, it's hard to say. I tend to like my claws regen brute a little bit more than this one because he is faster. It's more dynamic and exciting, And even though I have no defense and no resistance to anything, I do have all sorts of heals. So I think as that character gets closer to 50, though, this character is probably going to be better in the long run. I think that my regen character is probably going to have a tougher time. I think. Um, and he does look like he's BBQ Beef Rib. Anyway, so this character has been pretty good. Again, a lot of holes in the fiery aura. If you're gonna do farming, then I think apparently this is the way to go. I looked at a thing on the other server, and they actually, when they did a census of all their different power type characters, they actually removed fire armor brutes from the list because they were so much number 1 that number 2 through 149 or whatever the number combination were meaningless. They said, yeah, we got this group over here that's everyone's using for farming. So, but again, fire aura is very good if you're going to be just doing massive damage. If you just want to run in and do massive damage to certain characters or certain enemy groups, this is the way to go. So now what I'm going to be doing, I haven't set up all the things I want to do for my build yet, for my invention origins and stuff. I haven't gotten that far yet, although I am in. This character really kind of came into his own around level 29 or 30. He suddenly finally got to that point where I was able to start filling in all my slots, which was nice. I have everything all filled in. Once I got everything filled in, it was much easier to play. I took him through all the First Ward missions. First Ward is the missions you can do from this side. They're Praetorian, but you don't have to go in. You don't start in Pretoria to do it. They're level 20 through 30. I'm starting around 29 or so, and they're good story arcs. They get a little weird towards the end. They get very supernatural and metaphysical and stuff. It's a little strange, to be honest with you. But some of those missions are really, really good. I enjoyed them. They didn't do very good for XP, though, for some reason. It took me... I played 12 hours and got 2 levels. I went from 29 to 31, so I don't know. But the missions were kind of enjoyable anyway. He did really well there. And what I found in these been in his 30s, he's doing fine in Ridley Warzone as well. So I'm enjoying playing him. Not the best that I've played, but he's very decent. I've gotten way too long-winded on this episode. I swore after doing all those Praetorian episodes, I was not going to stretch the missions out very long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this particular episode here. Next episode, what we'll do is I'm going to take him out and we'll do 1 or 2 radio missions. I want you to see how he does, how he performs, especially the AoE stuff, because the AoE stuff is really amazing. When he gets going on big groups of enemies, this guy's fantastic. Especially solo, he's great, and on teams is very impressive. You can kind of make some of your teammates a little jealous, I think. So we'll do that on the next episode. So that is it for right now. That's Savage Melee Fire Armor Brute. So until next time, this is Greg 29407 saying arrivederci. We'll see you next time.